Welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Today it's been quite busy. We've done all the water barrels, which I'll show you in a moment, but we've been digging, plumbing, getting all the barrels and everything. So anyway, welcome to another episode. So in the greenhouse this month we've still got plenty of cucumbers coming, and the tomatoes are still doing really well. Nothing much has changed in here since the last video. The grapevines are most certainly slowing down, but we're still seeing kind of 37 degrees in the height of the day. So it's still going sort of reasonably warm in here. I'm going to be doing some cuttings and repotting house plants in here shortly, so that'll probably be on the next video. But we've done really well with the cucumbers, even though these ones down here have sort of damped off, and you can see the leaves are starting to go. We have done reasonably well. We're actually up to 68 cucumbers now, and there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ready to go. There's 7, 8 and 9 at the back there, so we're still doing reasonably well. Unfortunately this one's died here, so this one will be for the chickens when I get round to it. I've got a curly whirly one up here. I don't know quite why it's gone curly whirly, but we've got a curly whirly one nevertheless. And you can see there's some sort of growing in the roof here, so there's still plenty coming. So the border for the herbs is still as it was. They are starting to come through a little bit slower than I expected. And early today, as I've been explaining in the previous videos, I've put in the new water storage there, so this is a video about that. So today I'm going to be putting in the extra barrels, as you can see there. Now this blue one and this green one are the ones that are existing at the moment. Basically what I'm going to do is have all 5 of these together. This is going to move over slightly, because as you can see it goes slightly beyond the fence there. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, these slabs here are sitting on 2 layers of bricks, and there's no reason for them to be that high really, so what I'm going to do is actually drop them down 1 brick layer. So I'm going to take all the bricks out from there and drop it down 1, make sure it's level as well, because I think it's not quite level that. Obviously because there's going to be water in all of these barrels, it's important that that the platform that they sit on is going to be perfectly level, so that the water's sort of equal in each of the barrels, or it needs to be reasonably level anyway. From a plumbing perspective, I'm going to connect all 5 barrels together, and as you can see these ones here are connected together with 50mm pipe, but in the past I have had problems with this blocking up because you get sort of sediment and dirt in the bottom of the barrel. So what I'm going to do is increase the size of this pipe to 22mm, and I'm going to obviously replace the 2 couplings on there as well, so that the 22mm. Now the plumbing bits and bobs that I've got, obviously before you start a job like this you want to make sure you've got all your bits together, so you've got everything you need to do it. So I've got a bag of T-pieces, which will obviously, the barrel will be connected into there, and then these will be connecting the you know, the sort of the length of pipe which goes along there, which is this pipe here. And to give you an idea, copper's quite expensive at the moment. This piece of pipe cost around £10 from my local plumbing centre. These brass couplings, obviously the tank goes in there, so you need to put that through, tighten that up onto the barrel, and then you connect your pipe into there. They were £2.10p each. The isolating valve, I'm not quite sure. There's going to be like a tap at the end, like there is there. I'd got that in my garage already, so I'm not quite sure how much they are. They're about sort of £3 or something. And there's obviously going to be one alba joint at the end. If you don't know, an alba joint is basically just a right angle joint like that. And I'd already got that in my garage. I've not got it here, but it's basically a brass joint like these, which I'll be fitting onto the end one. So the first step is to take these two barrels out, put in the platforms. That'll be step one. The second step will be to arrange the barrels where I need them. Then as soon as they're in place, what I need to do is put the barrel connectors onto the bottom of each barrel, ensuring that they're at the same level as each other, so all the pipe is in a straight line, and then I'll be plumbing it together. So the first stage is to clear everything out of the way, and then to make sure I've got a level platform all the way along to the end of the fence there. So I'm just taking the pipe off the front of the two existing barrels. As you can see, the draining there. One tip, make sure you use the right size spanner to take off any of these joints. So once you're tightening up these, don't use a spanner that's slightly different. And I suggest not using mould grips, actually use a spanner. I use Imperial, so I'm using a 5/16 for the pipe, and obviously when you put it on there, there shouldn't be any sort of movement between, so you're not sort of damaging the joint as you take it off. So I'll remove the two barrels and all of the bits and bobs around them. I will take this opportunity to paint the fence. As you can see there, I've not been able to get to that because the barrels are in the way. But whilst I work it all out, I'll just quickly paint that. And what I've done, here there was some sort of bark chippings. So what I've done, obviously, each of the barrels, when they're full of water, will weigh 80 kilos. So there's a reasonable amount of weight. So what you want to do is actually bed them down onto solid ground. So what I'll be doing is, as I level this section off here, I'm not going to be disturbing the ground any more than I need to. So what I'll do is I'll scrape the ground off layer by layer until I get down to the layer that to the level that I need, and then I'll be sitting the bricks straight onto the ground. I don't think there's any need to start putting any kind of structural stuff in there, but what you don't want to do is put the slabs and that and bricks and that down onto loose ground, because obviously as the weight increases, as the barrels fill with water, the ground will compact and the platform will sink to the ground and potentially become unstable. Now, because these barrels are 80 kilos when they're heavy, obviously there's 80, 160, 320. There's a lot of weight in here. So obviously the last thing you want is for the barrels to become unstable and tip over, because that's potentially dangerous. So you need to make sure that whatever base you put in is completely solid. So I've taken all the barrels out now, and I've dug out a little bit of ground, so I'll make sure I'm down to solid ground. And I've levelled off the ground, so as you can see, the spirit level's level that way, and also if I go from the front to the back, you can also see it's level there. In getting it level, what you're actually doing is making sure that all of the weight of the barrels goes straight down. It's not at an angle, so that the barrel will, if it's too far one way, it'll lean against the fence and potentially take the fence out, or if it leans the other way, it potentially will fall toward the camera and potentially hurt somebody. Now, a little trick for getting the ground level, what I've done is I've just put some fence posts or whatever in where the line of bricks are going to go, and I've used that to level, make sure that the level's true. And I've just sort of walked along the barrels along the post to make sure that the ground underneath is completely compacted. I only sort of skimmed off a little bit of the ground, so I knew I was almost right. And all I've done is I've just gone back with a very light sprinkle of earth to just to make up the levels where there was some little sort of indentions or whatever where the spade went. Now what I'll do is I'll now place the bricks there, and then to do this top half here, I've already checked that the levels are sort of roughly there. There's obviously a few little bits and bobs here which I need to tidy up, but so the first layer of bricks will go along there, which will be the side that you see, and then the back layer will go here, which is just shy of the fence, about 3 inches shy of the fence. Obviously the weight of the barrel is going to be on top of that layer of bricks there and there, so basically the slab which sits on top will go a little bit further back than that row of bricks, but that doesn't matter because it's underneath the weight bearing part of the slab. So now I've placed the bricks in a row. This first row here in the middle of the screen now, that's 23 inches away from the fence, and then this back one here, it's not exactly straight, but that's just off the fence, so the back of the slab will sit on there. So the next step is to place the slab back on top of the bricks. So that's with the slabs in place. So now because the bricks are recycled bricks, obviously they're all different sizes and sort of shapes and stuff, so it is slightly uneven, but as the weight of the water goes on, it'll find its own level. I've had to put a bit of a sort of a small slab in there, which is not quite as long as the others, but you won't see the back, it'll be okay. So now I've got a nice level solid platform to put on the barrels. So I've replaced this coupling on the tank. This is a 22mm coupling, and all I've done is I've cleaned the barrel out, made the hole slightly bigger and passed it through where the 50mm one used to be. Now what I need to do is to do that same thing on these 3 new barrels. So what I've done is I've measured exactly the same spot where that is on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is drill a hole through there. And all I'm using is a circular cutter on a drill. Make sure I go in at the right point. So now I've got the hole for the okay, so what I'm going to first do is just check that it'll pass through the hole. So there's plenty of loose there. Now this is the trick. What I need to do, because I'm not going to cut the top off this barrel, all I've got is this small hole here. What I've done is I've got a stick and I've just got some welding wire, and I've taped it here, which corresponds to the top of the tank, or just above it. And I've got at the end, I've just lightly taped it with a bit of masking tape again, with the wire coming out. So if I now pass that into the tank, noting which way it's pointing, so it's pointing that way, yeah. So now it's pointing towards the hole. You can go down, find the bottom of the tank with a stick, like that, come back up, and then if I just waggle that about, what I should do is get the wire at the bottom, like that. So now I've got a piece of wire at the bottom and the same piece of wire at the top, so what I'll do is I'll pull the masking tape off, so now I've got that piece of wire at the bottom. So that the wire doesn't pass back in, I'm just going to bend the end over like that, and then at the top pull the wire off the stick, and now I'll remove the stick. So I've now got a piece of wire which goes from the top all the way to the bottom of the hole. Obviously I can't get my arms inside this tank. Now this is the tank connector, so what I'm going to do now is drop this down the wire. Okay, so I'm just holding that there. I've put some silicone sealer on both sides there just to be absolutely sure. I mean, there is a washer, a rubber washer in there. So by holding both ends of the wire, I then drop that down, and now the connector's at the bottom. I stick my finger into the connector inside and then pull it through. Now you no longer need the wire, so you can get rid of the wire. Don't let go of this, and then get the washer. Now what I suggest you do, whatever you do, don't let go of that, because you don't want it to fall inside, otherwise you're going to have trouble to get it out. Put the nut over your finger and then put your finger inside. So what I'm doing if I show you with another one, so I'm trying to loosen that. I've got my finger inside, and I'm just holding it on like that inside, so I'm pulling it out, if you like. So I've got my finger inside like that. Now I'm holding the actual tank connector. I'm just going to run the nut down onto it. Now as soon as the nut's on, just do it finger tight. Now that's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to fall in. If it does fall in the tank, you are going to have a game to get it back out. Now again, like I explained before, get the right sized spanner to fit the nut. Now you can't get to the inside obviously unless you put your finger through. This is another good reason for using 22mm pipe, because you can get your fingers through. If it was a 15mm, you'd struggle to get your little finger through, to be honest. So all I need to do now is put the, just make sure it's the one. Yeah, put my finger through the spanner exactly like I did the nut. Put your finger through the joint and hold it on the inside, and then by turning this from the outside, what I'm doing now is I'm compressing the rubber washer on the inside to make the water seal against the tank. Now, because you can't get to the inside, you may not be able to get this as tight as you would possibly want to. So what you can do, but you need to be careful doing this, because what you don't want to do is damage the thread. So what you can do is, with a pair of mould grips, very gently hold the threaded part of the coupling like that, to make sure you've got these adjusted well. What I would suggest you do is don't actually close them, because that will clamp on and potentially damage the thread. So that's just short of that. No, I can't actually get them on, I have to say that. So it's just going to have to be finger tight, like that. What I will do actually is even though I've said not to do it, I'm going to put some mould grips like that and another set onto the threads, and then just nick them up. So I'm going to put a pair of mould grips on, just gently, onto the nut, and with the other pair I'm just going to try and nick that up as much as I can, being very careful not to damage the threads on the connector. That's about as tight as that's going to get without me damaging the thread. So that's that one done. I'm going to repeat that same procedure now on these other two, and I'm going to replace the joint, the connector here, with a larger one, so that they're all 22mm. So the pipe fittings are now on. So that's the one you saw earlier, that's the one you saw me doing, and then I've done that one and that one. So now all that's left to do is to put the copper pipe between all of these. One thing you need to notice is this is coming out at a slightly sharper angle than the rest. So what I need to do is, obviously the pipe needs to be all at the same level, or as close as I can get it. The T-piece joints, which are going to connect all the bits of pipe together, will take a little bit of movement in there, you can, but I'm going to try and so this pipe here will perhaps come down to there, and then this one here will perhaps only come to there, so it's at the same height. So as you can see, this barrel here I'm not overly convinced about, because it's a bit old. So what I've done is I've used compression joints on there, so if I need to take this out I can just remove that later. Now, to cut the pipe, I'm using one of these devices. If you cut this with a hacksaw, you get really jagged edges, and that's not good for the joint. If you cut it with this pipe cutter, you get like a rounded edge there, so when you put the pipe joints over, it's because the edge is beveled, they go on quite nicely. Now, basically to use one of these, all you need to do is the piece of pipe I'm going to cut is going to be about so big. So you just fasten that on, and here you've got like a small cutting wheel, and here you've got like just a rolling wheel, and all you need to do is just tighten that up slightly, and then basically you roll it round the pipe. As you can see, the cutter's cutting a line into the pipe. So if you take that round a couple of times like that, and you basically just keep tightening it up like that, and take that round a few times. What I tend to do is make sure you don't tighten this up in the same place, because you can get a dent in the pipe if you're not too careful. Just tighten it up about a quarter of a turn at a time. You just keep turning it round the pipe like that until it starts to become a little bit loose, so you know that it's actually cut through to that length. Now that's almost cut through now, so I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit more, and I'm just going to move towards the floor, so that I don't drop this pipe on the floor and dent it, because copper is quite easily dented, and you don't want to dent the ends, because obviously that's where you're making the seal. There you go. So that's my piece of pipe cut, and as you can see each side is beveled. Now for compression joints, this piece of pipe's going to sit inside there like that. That might be slightly too long, but I'll have to cut a little bit off there. But basically, for a compression joint, you have these things which come with the I'll show you a new one. That's called an olive, and basically you sit the olive over the pipe, and then with a bit of this stuff, which is just some sort of sealing tape, it's not sticking anyway, it's you just basically take that around like that. And what I tend to do is go around 3 times. You can get a little bit knotted if you're not careful. So that's the piece of pipe. I've cut a slightly shorter piece of pipe. That's the compression joint, and that, along with the nut, will go onto the compression joint like that. On this side, it's going to be soldered, and what you first need to do is make sure that the copper's perfectly clean, like that, so it's absolutely shiny clean, and it's better that the lines go around that way. And then use some of this, which is flux, and you just need to smear some of that round. You don't need a lot of it, like that. By rights you shouldn't get this on your hand, so be careful. And then the solder joint will then go onto there like that, and I shall make each joint like that until I'm ready, and then I'll solder the lot together. So of course the nut needs to go on first like that, because that's going to go onto the joint there, and then that T-piece is going to fit over there like that, and then it'll end up there like that. So we're almost finished. All of the pipe work's in. It is a good tip to say that don't solder the joints until you've got them all in, because obviously as soon as you've soldered it, the fit's in that position. The only thing to do now is just make sure all of the barrels are in the right place, and then solder it. So all you need to solder is some good quality solder. Don't get cheap solder. You're going to have a right game to get it in, so you want to solder with some flux in it. Obviously I've put some flux on the joints already, but get some solder with flux in, and a blowtorch. Now, it's not ideal that I'm doing a solder joint this close to a compression joint, so I'm going to be quite gentle the way I warm this, and the way you do it is to warm up the joint itself and the pipe slightly, but you want most of the heat to be in the middle here. I'm going to solder all 3 joints, because obviously there's one here going to that pipe, one there going to that pipe, and one there going to that pipe. I'm going to solder all 3 together, so I'll show you how I do that now. So the first step is just to, if you can see the solder, what I've done is I've taken quite a long length off the reel, and I've twisted this together so I can apply the solder quickly rather than trying to put it in you know, with it just one strand of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this joint here, just make sure all of the, as you can see, the pipes are nice and easy, so I know I'm not putting any strain on any of the pipes. And it's simple as that. I don't know if you saw, but when I was heating it, what you want is the solder to sink inside there, which is sort of capillary action. So what you do is you heat up the pipe and the joint. Then as you apply the solder at the edge there, it'll flow into between the pipe and the joint. So that's now nice and solid. I'll just repeat that same thing now on all of the other joints. So now that's all the joints done, so that's all soldered up nicely. A good tip is, if the solder's got all the way into the joint, it'll start to run out the bottom. You see them little bits of solder under there and there, so that's a good sign that there's basically the joint's full of solder, which is what you're looking for. Now all I need to do is wait for the you know, I'll put some sealer round in there and round the inside, as you can see there. What I'm going to do is, rather than fill it with water tonight, even though the sealer has gone off, I'm going to give it tonight just to make absolutely sure it's all, you know, sort of cured properly and it's not still sort of malleable in places. And then I'll fill the barrels with the hose pipe. I've taken the opportunity to give the barrels a good clean out. As you can see, the ones that were there before, obviously the new ones are perfectly clean on the inside. I didn't forget to paint the fence. If anybody puts any comment, I just thought, because it was taking me so long to get it done, I thought, oh, blow it, the weather doesn't get to it anyway. So important things to note: obviously the water is going to go in here from the drain when it rains, from the guttering, and the water is then going to go down here along, and then it's going to fill the other 4 barrels. Likewise, when I'm going to water the greenhouse or the rest of the garden, wherever, I'm going to take the water from here, and as the level drops in here, it will then refill through the same pipe, with the water running the opposite way back into this barrel at the back. Now, don't worry about if the bricks are a little bit uneven underneath and the slabs move if you do something like this, because as soon as the weight of this is on there, you know, it will find its own level, and this is likely to sort of slightly sink a little bit. So don't worry about if any of them are slightly not quite level. That will, even though these are level, you know, even if it's not too bad, you'll be fine. Now each of these is going to be basically full to here, obviously, because all of the levels of water will be the same in each of the barrels, so they'll sort of fill to a maximum of kind of here. And obviously, if it fills any more than that, it'll just overspill from this one. The other important thing to note is, obviously I don't want any dirt to get in here, which is why I've left the tops on, but you need to let the air get in and out. Obviously as this fills, the air needs to come out, and as it empties, the air needs to go in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the white cap back on there, because I don't want a hole so big, and I'm going to possibly drill a hole in the middle of the cap, because what I don't want is any dirt to fall down inside there, or any mice to fall in, because obviously that wouldn't be very nice for the mice. So I'm going to make a hole in the top of it, so you know, so basically nothing can get in. You don't need a particularly big hole. Something like 6 or 7 mil will be more than big enough to let the air in and out, so that's not going to be a problem. So that's the barrels from the other side. So I'm quite pleased with that job. It has taken quite a while to do. It's taken most of today to do it, and in total it's been a little bit more expensive than I expected. All of the pipe work that you see at the front there has cost around £30, which was a bit more than I was expecting, to be honest, but at least it's all done now, and you know, this is going to last me for years, so it's kind of money well spent. So that's how all of that was done. Coming down here, we've got the carrots. I showed them on the last video. I won't add any more yet. A lot of this is pretty much as it was in the last video, to be honest. I've tidied the sticks away there. I've been doing a little bit of sort of weeding around, but you can't really tell from here, to be honest with you. We've had some peas this week, so this tunnel looks pretty much the same as it was. Again, we've been having some kale and spinach, so it's all doing well. So that's that tunnel. The second tunnel, the broccoli's run to flower. It's been a funny year for that, but there is some still on there to be eaten. So what I'll be doing with that is, chickens love broccoli, so what I'll be doing is clearing out that side in the next week or so, and getting it ready for the potatoes next year. And I'll be feeding the remains of the broccoli to the chickens. Pumpkins and sunflowers are doing really well. We've had quite a few courgettes and that. Sunflowers, I don't know if you can see, but they've really come out this last week. We've got some quite big ones actually. They're going a bit bigger on actually. I'll just pull this leaf back. You can see that's probably about the size, just short of a dinner plate, so that's probably about sort of 10 inches across or so. And there's a really nice big one over there, but unfortunately you can't see it from this side, so I'll show you when I get around to the side. The sweet peas have really finished now, as you can see, they've gone over. The potatoes, I've done quite a few potatoes out this week, and I've gone through and fetched all the rest of the weeds out, so that looks a bit tidier than it did last time you saw it. Again, the parsnips and the beetroot, etc., are all still doing. Again, the Swedes, it just hasn't been good for Swedes this year at all. I'm going to eat some of the beetroot tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to make a Mexican dish with the beetroot, so that should be quite nice. The kohlrabi and the Swiss chard has really benefited from me taking all the calendulas out from the front. The beans, I've basically let them run to seed. As you can see, there's no more red flowers on, so the beans are pretty much finished. There's the odd flower here and there, but we are still picking beans, but there's going to be no more after what's on now. Just quickly running around. I've not got round to weeding this bit here, so and they've already run to seed anyway, so I'll need to get onto these weeds here, but obviously I've been quite busy today doing the barrels. So the butternut squash and the other gourd are still doing okay. There's still sort of some coming in there. I still haven't got a female flower, unless some of these are female. There was one round here that I thought might be female, but that one there, well, I think that's probably male actually, looking at it now. So this is the side of the potatoes. The sweet peas have done really well. That one just there, I'll just zoom in. That one there's completely run to seed now, and I'll save the seed from there. But they've done really well. I mean, they're about sort of 7 foot tall now, and we're still getting plenty of bloom on there, and the smell's really nice. The courgettes are still coming on strong. I'm going to put some of them in the Mexican dish tomorrow with the couscous, so that should be nice. And the sunflowers, if I can just step over onto my neighbour's plot, so I can show you properly. They're a real picture now from this side. So flowers are quite small, but they do look nice. That one on the end there is just sort of coming through. As you can see, that was actually open earlier today, slightly, but it's closed up now, it's going darker. And the one that you can't see from the other side, if you look from here, you can't really get an idea of its size, but that's probably the size of a dinner plate, so that's probably going to be the biggest one this year. So that'll be the one that I save the seed from. Chickens can have the rest. So again, back of the onions and the all of this is pretty much the same as it was. I really do need to start sort of tie all this back. But the raspberries, I don't know, they're definitely coming to the end, but we are still picking a few raspberries for puddings and that. Now the strawberries are still coming. Obviously none of them ripen yet, but you can see we're getting quite nice little clusters of strawberries forming there, as you can see. So I've been keeping this watered. There's a few weeds here and there, but I'll get around to that tomorrow when I get 5 minutes. The pumpkin is completely ripened now. It ain't going to get any bigger than that. So even though I've been watering it every night, it's not got any bigger than that. I'm not sure if it's the seed I had, but I'm sure I got the giant ones that I normally do. But I haven't got a pumpkin bigger than that. Anyway, so the hollyhocks are still coming through, so they're going to be, they'll sort of go dormant and then come for next year really. And that's pretty much it for this week. In next week's episode, as I say, I'll show you some cuttings, and I'll be doing some house plant aloe vera. We've got quite a few aloe vera plants which are really good, and I'll tell you all the benefits for that. I need to repot them, and I'll also be showing you John's allotment, who's kind of in that direction, and John actually won the Warwickshire Cup this year for his allotment. Well, I hope that episode was of some use to you. Obviously there's been more building and plumbing and stuff than actually gardening this week. But I hope some of the tips and bits and bobs that I've been showing you today have been of use to you. Next week, as I've explained, there's going to be plenty going on. So do tune into the next edition of Jim's Allotment Garden. Please give me your comments, subscribe, etc. below. But see you soon. I bet you didn't know grasshoppers like plumbing.